Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Florida, the Gators have indeed punched the ticket. They are the first team through to the Men's College World Series.
Well, today is a big day in college baseball. 6 punch their tickets to Omaha.
First and third, and Martinez hammers one deep to left field. Way back and gone. A 3-run home run, J.D. Martinez. And the Dodgers are pouring it on in the 7th inning.
Here's a drive to right. Pretty well hit. Back goes Conforto near the right field wall. That is a home run for Morrell. And the Cubs get another home run. Morrell with a solo opposite field home run. And the Cubs lead 2-0.
Tyro swings it, drives one down the left field line. Toward the corner, it is gone, a home run. Wow, straight down the left field line. The second home run of the game for Tyro. A 3-run shot. It's 13-3.
Tied at 4 here in the bottom of the ninth after a long rain delay that's going to end right here. Oh, my! Nolan Jones crushes it. A walk-off winner. Touch him all time. God, you got to love this kid.
Vega sends it back in. Barbashev collides with Gudis far corner. Marchessault as well. To the middle. It's Hank. A wrist shot. Blocked. Rebound. Score! William Carlson. 3-0 Golden Knights.
It's that time again. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. A new week. Alongside Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. I said your full name again.
That's okay.
Maybe I can't do that every time.
Yeah,
maybe it's a few sprinkled in there.
I was going to say sprinkled too.
Well, you got a new form of identification that had your full name on it on Friday, so that's good.
Yes. It
all worked out.
That was very, very
eventful,
strange situations, but I don't know. I have more questions than probably answers.
How long was your visit at the DMV?
35 minutes.
Oh, not bad. Appointment helps.
Not bad at all. And I had to call. I called my pal, my confidant, Matt Coatney, who works in that field, because I was trying to expedite, because it was more some clerical errors and some omissions from way back in last July.
That's crazy.
I hadn't even moved yet, which was part of the problem for the license revocation. But it expedited things, and the lady at the desk threw me back into the bin because I had an appointment. So she's like, "Hey, I see you have all the miscellaneous pieces. We just need somebody to go in the system and pull it all together." Right?
Okay.
Because I was,
yeah.
So she's like, "I'll put your number back into the queue. Just give me a nod. If nobody's up here, I'll just bring you back to the counter. You don't have to start over again." So it helped. So I'm online. It's hard to get on their Wi-Fi, so I turned the hotspot on my phone. Luckily, I brought my laptop because I had everything downloaded and saved.
Smart man.
So I just was showing her things on my laptop, and she's like, "Yep, she wanted to give me the benefit of the doubt. She just would, and I get it, right? That's her job. But she wanted to make sure it was absolutely lock stock. So once they hit release on the DMV end, we got the whole product done.
And we're set for the future.
Yeah, the hardest part of that whole deal was taking a class online.
Oh, yeah, the class on Thursday night.
Yeah, where I didn't get done until almost 12:30. So I really haven't, because last night was horrendous in terms of sleep. So I'd been up since 4 o'clock. I'm having real life conversations with Jay Foreman at 4 in the morning. Just miscellaneous.
Just catching up.
Coaching, moves in Omaha, Lincoln, what's going on in the landscape in the metro. Who's this young man? Is he a good player? What's the stock here? Like
at 4 a.m. You guys are both up?
4:15.
Who texted who? I guess he texted you.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have even asked the question.
Yeah. So, it was just a weird weekend because we were in Chicago, but it wasn't really Chicago. We were in Naperville.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still probably, 25, 30 minutes from Chicago, right?
Yeah.
So didn't really have to go into like the city. Naperville was fine. Saw a couple weddings at the hotel. One of them, I believe.
Did you crash?
The general term is Indian.
Okay.
But I don't know. There's different cultures within that big nomenclature. But there was like a 600-person wedding, and it lasted 2 days. And they were celebrating around a Ferrari, which I was blown away. It's 8:10 in the morning on Saturday, and it is party time at the hotel. So that was interesting because, you know me, I just sat and watched.
You're a big people watcher.
And
when there's 600 people there, you could spend a whole weekend.
Yeah. So, and then
all of a sudden you missed all the basketball games.
So when he had a great schedule, because he didn't start until like in the 11, 12 maybe.
You said he had the early slate
on Sunday.
Right.
He had the first game on Sunday, which was great because it was like in this industrial area. So it was very condensed. There's an iron gym and an auto body shop and a dog rescue place. Like it was a narrow corridor. So on Sunday morning, the police came and were ticketing people that were parking in the streets. Oh, they were getting everybody. And then
making some money on a weekend, huh?
And then I kept getting all these. So it was a very, I wanted to make it clear with people, I'm not mad, right? Like I understand the recruiting business, but of course, and I wasn't there. So obviously I got somebody in my household who's down in Lincoln.
Oh, you do?
Well, the visit goes, the visit is whatever. And I get a little ping. It's like, hey man, what is a take offer? I'm like, what are you talking about? So then I got to go back and I got to read this write up that folks that apparently, and I know sometimes I say people aren't good at their job, but it was poorly done, right? And I'm not going to get into the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks defending everything that happens in recruiting. I'm just not. But some people wanted me to be upset with the reply to Sean Callahan. They're like, well, why would these guys say this? And I'm like, they're basically I'm not mad at those guys. They're basically responding to how poorly the write-up was done, right? The whole, the sophomore film, and it's now a take offer as though it wasn't. And I'm like, but I'm just keeping my composure, right? Because obviously being a public figure, you don't want to be the dad that's going back and forth with over recruiting, right? I'm not going to be that guy.
And you're trying to separate what you do with that.
But there was definitely fact from fiction, right? I'm like, that's not even remotely what happened. Like, I'm not sure where you got this information from. So then yesterday, like the deal is like redone. There's a couple of deletes. There's an edit. My response is deleted. And I'm like, just pick up the phone and say, my bad, right? Just say, hey, you know what? Because we're supposed to be, I don't know what the heck we are. I don't trust anybody these days. I don't. Like I got my circle and I'm good there.
Right.
But we're associates, right? Just say, hey man, you know what? I screwed the pooch. I rushed, or I thought I had some information. This was the perception I got, because it spiraled the whole thing out of control because of simply how
things were worded.
The information was disseminated. And I'm like, so that I just shake my head, right? Like, you can't even come back and own that. Just be like, hey man, you know what? I screwed up. My bad.
Well, because it's easier, and I've been there before.
I would have to, right?
Right.
Like I would get called on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially if that's your job.
Right.
So,
but I will say this, it is easier. Well, whether it's easy or right, you could, try to lean one side or the other. But I have done it before where it was like, oh, you know what? I wrote something and it was wrong. And it's just easier to update and edit and remove than it is, hey, make a deal about it, leave it. And then as more people start to see it, things that have gotten resolved.
And, people are going to run and tell, right?
Sure. But I mean, to avoid the spreading of wildfire, you can just, extinguish the little fire that had started and then talk to the source. Now, I don't know how the conversation went down, and I'm not even going to ask you how it went down. But I will say I've been
delete my responses.
I will say I've been there before where it's like, what's easier? But it's also, but you know what? I think of it from that stance. Some people may think of it as I got to cover this up. I can't let people know that I said this. And so then,
but at some point,
you're walking down a different path.
You got to see me.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. But then you're walking down a different path.
Yeah.
Regardless, how it ends up is by talking to the person that left the hey, question mark. What's this about?
Because I guarantee you, I'm gonna want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm like, hey, so are you the guy supplying him with this info? So then you got to go to the source. I'm like, hey, are you the guy supplying him with this information? Because this reads as drivel. So then we get that explanation. I was like, wow, I want to just go all in, but I'm going to
play cool.
Yeah, just because life's too short. Listen, man, I mean, if you're not, I talked about this for like 2 months. Like if people hang on your every word because they're not in the know, then you need to take some pride in what you're doing, right? Like you have a certain responsibility. And I mean, listen, if you don't treat it like that, then moving forward, it is what it is. But that was sandwiched in between some really good basketball. They play good basketball in that area. It drove through the Quad City, so I wanted to honk at Roger Craig's old house, but I didn't. I thought that had been a little weird to just circle the neighborhood and go see the old high school. I'm like, But
you do some weird things in the car.
No, I do, man. I really.
So that would have fit your persona.
I really do, and but it was only a 6-hour drive, like 6:05.
That's about what it takes to get back to St. Louis.
It was amazingly quick.
Now,
especially once I got to the Mississippi.
That's what I was going to ask.
I saw a sweet boat, man. This jet ski was getting it in, and I went super slow. And
again, weird things in the car.
Yeah, and I'm bored. I wanted to stop by this place. I wasn't stopping though, so stopped in Coralville real quick because our head coach was like right above me or right in front ahead of me, just like a couple mile markers. Like it's kind of by design. Like I just called him. I was like, hey man, where you at? And he's like, oh, I'm here. And I was like, oh, I'm here.
Did you try to catch him?
When are you gonna get gas? No, like he just was like, hey, I'm gonna get there because I can't, Coralville, that's Iowa City, so that's however many miles, right? 300 or
right,
whatever. And so we filled up, and then
like two high school girls going to the bathroom.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird.
Hey, you want to go with me? You want to get gas together?
And he's so cool. Like he's never in a hurry. Like he's the one that coined the phrase "slow motion is better than no motion." Like he's just cool. So, I mean, we kind of just chilled, and on the way back, like it was a little rainy, but pulled in at like 7. Got some quick, because Caleb was back here, so I had
7 p.m.
Yeah, so I had him go pick up some paisans,
some Vers.
Yeah,
I saw that. I saw that post yesterday.
Vers was being an idiot, so I cut him off, and then
for 4 hours, and then he was back on your list.
I don't know, like if this is a thing, and maybe this is just like. Maybe I'm slumming it, no pun intended.
We'll talk about that.
We'll get to all the crabbiness, but I called him and I said, "Hey," I called twice, right? Because it's Sunday. I figured he was busy, so I wanted to get in the rotation, right? I just wanted.
Did you call his personal phone or did you call the restaurant?
I don't even know the restaurant number, which I'll own, right? Like maybe I should just be a regular dude and call. But see, I didn't know if they were still open because it's like 6 o'clock, and he had funny hours with his staff. So,
and especially with graduations taking place,
yeah, man, like
I'm early before.
I'm just double checking. So he sent me a text, and it was, of course, snarky. Working something. I said, hey, just trying to get into the rotation. Not sure what time you close. He sent me a message back with the store number, 991, whatever.
Yeah, okay.
Dude said, call. I was like, okay. So I sent him a text. I said, hey, can I just screenshot you my debit card number? They didn't get it on the, McKenna didn't get it. He sends me an audio thing.
Audio message.
Audio message. So I played it through my Bluetooth because I wanted to. I'm like, I'm not going to put the phone. I'm rolling, right? So I played it. I put the thing in my Bluetooth. It said, hey, buddy, on the oven. Don't have time. Call the number. She'll get you squared away. Like, that's how he said it. And I was like, what the frick is wrong with this dude, man? Like, you know what I mean?
Matt, I just want to thank you.
So I'm mad again.
Were you mad because he was just like the way he said it, like the tone of his voice?
I'll play it for you. He said, have whomever's getting it pay for it. And I was like, well, it's Caleb. Like, I don't know if he has. I was trying to skip the formalities, right? Like,
you just wanted him to go in, pick up the pies, go home.
Right. Like, what's the best way for me to do that? But apparently, dude didn't have time. So then he called me twice last night, and I didn't answer.
Is that a way to get him back?
Oh, man, I'm good on him for a while. It's just
I don't know. I don't know who's in the right here.
No, so you know what? And I'm listening. Like if he said, "Hey, man, I'm busy," like be like everybody. It's not even be like everybody else because I literally was just trying to see if he was open.
Mm-hmm.
But if he was like, "Hey, I'm busy," it's high pressure. Like, okay.
What if he would have texted, "Hey, I'm busy. Here's the number."
Listen, I'm not sure.
They'll get you squared away. Would you have been okay like if it was worded that way?
I'm not sure. I'm just not in the headspace to be messing around with him. And then, he hit me with the message, not for DB.
Well, and you had a long weekend.
Yeah, so I'm just like, he could make a legit case and probably be right. I'm just not here for it. Because I wouldn't, I know, man. I just would. So this whole weekend, this is what the whole thing, I just wouldn't do people like that. That's my motto.
Okay.
The simple versus easy. Uh-huh. Like I just wouldn't treat people that way. I wouldn't do the stupid stuff that Sean did, right? But so that's what I'm mad at. I'm not mad that he did it. I'm saying I would give you.
You would never have gotten there.
I would give you the respect to do whatever, right? I wouldn't. So I'm very much about principles right now because I don't know, maybe just being a baby. But then you got me gassed up when I'm trying to catch up on this whole slumming it thing. We should have had Doctorman on, but I didn't want to chase ambulances.
No.
But apparently people don't really know the definition of slumming.
Well, I think they like to
relative.
See what they read and where it comes from. And we'll get into this a lot more throughout the show because I was bugged a little bit last night and this morning to the point to where a lot of times when I'm doing my prep in the morning, I'm like, all right, I got to catch up on a few things. And then, okay, I want to have some preloaded thoughts when we talk to Sam, who we'll talk to at 8:00.
I talked to Sam all weekend. Sam
McKewon, that is,
tries to really get behind the scenes. Sam tries to be really good at his job. So I give
more
Sam,
times than not, he comes out ahead.
I give Sam a ton of grace.
And then I was like, oh, okay, we got to talk to Brady Oltmans at 8:45, and then we get to talk to Ben Upton at 9. So we'll talk a little college baseball, and then we actually have a unique guest to close out the show in Ed Fritz. And what makes him unique is if you're watching the NBA Finals, you may know of a guy named Christian Brown who has slowly become the role player of the Nuggets versus the role players of the Heat.
Yep.
And he was coached by Ed Fritz just outside of Kansas City. So we'll talk to him.
On the Fritz.
We'll talk a little bit about how like the high school step to then get to where he is
Some
today.
people didn't even think he should have come out.
And that's another thing too. So legendary coach at Blue Valley Northwest High School in Kansas City. So we will talk to him to close the show. But I had all of these things that I wanted to like think about this morning, and all I could end up thinking about was the word slumming and what it meant and why people got so hurt by the word. And
I know what you want. I know what you wanted to say. That's not the kind of hurt.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Don't do it.
Some type of hurt. You were feeling some type of way.
I feel some type of way. Hey.
And so I went down a bunch of different roads, and we'll get into that probably more on this hour. But still, like a lot to get to throughout the show because a lot happened this weekend. I mean, you had a familiar face find a new home at K-State in Arthur Kaluma. You had a horse that painted a pretty good picture on how to run the Belmont Stakes. That was Arcangelo, not Michelangelo, but Arcangelo.
Yeah.
And you saw his owner freak out in the seats.
Damn.
She was going in the whole race.
Listen, rare company though.
Mm-hmm.
Good honor.
Then you had some recruiting news. You had Tyson Terry commit to the Huskers, which is the 2025 rumor that we were talking about all last week.
And I'm just telling you, this peer recruiting thing, man, is in full effect. It is in full.
Hey, you want to come play with me? Aren't we boys? You want to come play with me?
But see, Tyler, wow, Tyson and Caleb are boys. Right? Because I'm obviously good friends with his dad, so we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, and he tugged at my feels, tweeting out some of those pictures of when they used to play together. I
remember you telling me that they played Pee Wee together.
Yeah, they were a couple of menaces.
Well, Tyson Terry is still a menace. I mean, I don't want to get in his way ever.
You should have. And he was hurt a good chunk of one of their years. And he was still impacting practice just because he was so mean-spirited. But I love him. Like that TNT is a guy that I would let watch Zoe. Yeah, I remember, we'd take him out because they spend the night at each other's house all the time. And Ryan would a lot of times take Caleb to practice. So he would scoop him and stuff. And, Tyson is the type of kid, like we'll go eat or something and we'll go pick up food after it, and he doesn't want to order for you. It's more like I'll eat what you get me. I was like, no, and we'd always have to arm wrestle, right? It's like, no, man, just go ahead, like it's fine. And he was so great. He's so good natured, like off the field and off the mat. It's hard to believe he's such a terror on the field and on the mat because he's
flip the switch.
He's genuinely a mean-spirited competitor. And his dad's a mean guy. So he comes by it honestly. Now his mom, sweet as pie. But
and that's what he gets off the field, right?
Yeah. He's mom off the field. He's definitely dad on. So I spent the weekend with Isaiah McMorris's dad. Lamar was in Chicago watching his nephew play. So got some insight. I'm getting updates on Sims throwing bombs to Zay, and I'm telling Lamar, I'm like, hey, man, I'm getting real-time updates. My man was cool as the other side of the pillow, man. Yeah, he said he was having a good time up there.
All right.
I mean, just steady, Eddie. Yeah. That's a very eventful weekend, man.
You had a new face named to the Nebraska baseball program and a familiar face promoted. Just a lot going on. We'll be back with more Coffee and Cream.
You walk into a stadium, 8,000 people, they all want you to lose. But as long as you got your 26 guys ready to kick ass or kick butt, you're going to be all right. Sorry, I sweared. I shouldn't have sweared.
You're good, man. Let's go back to that last inning, ninth inning. What are the emotions like entering that inning?
Well, emotions are go in, win. I heard a fan offer free Dippin' Dots if I blew it, which price of Dippin' Dots with inflation is just unreal. So for a brief moment, I was like, damn, Dippin' Dots sound good. But also, I thought in the back of my head, we win today, we win tomorrow, or tonight. We're going to be here another day. That's more per diem. So that means I can buy my own Dippin' Dots and be a winner. So it's like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to attack. I think 3 words every time I'm out there. The first one's a swear word, starts with F. Second word's attack. Third one's win. And I just repeat that to myself. Unless, there's a breach in the system and a walkie guy, and I got to tell myself I'm a few different things that isn't a winner. I might break that, but then I get right back on it. Just this attack win, And
Steve,
it's really easy pitching when you got a defense like ours. I tell you, it's so easy when they're behind you. As long as you keep it in the yard, you got a chance, which is pretty cool.
Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Man, we only briefly discussed everything that happened this weekend. Coffee and Cream back with you here on Hail Varsity Radio, 590 ESPN Radio in Omaha. We're live on Twitter, live on YouTube. You can catch us on the stream there, and live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. Just a little update. This Friday, we will be out and about. We will be on location downtown for the start of the College World Series. Still waiting on 2 teams to solidify their spot. but
I
the
do-
road
I do-
to
I do
Omaha
hope
is
it's Stanford.
getting close. How about pitching 150 some odd pitches yesterday and
he's-
throwing a complete game?
He's a stud.
What,
and I felt
what
like
did he end with? I saw he had 15 after
I
8.
felt like I just watched him Friday, but it wasn't Friday. It was whatever day that was when he came out of the bullpen in relief. And it's weird, man. You got 4 teams with 50 wins. You got the hottest team, arguably, in the country in TCU. You have Oral Roberts, who a lot of local scribes felt like would win their region. I don't know if they felt like they would win supers, but there were more than a handful.
Yeah,
of
they were the
people
4 seed that if we were
that
filling out a March Madness
kinda
bracket.
liked Oral Roberts. So, I mean, it is it's tough.
So you think TCU's hotter than Wake Forest right now?
You know,
Because we're talking about a Wake Forest team that's outscored opponents since the regionals 75-16.
Yeah, like I wouldn't fight you over that.
I'm just curious because you said you like just how they're playing, like the hottest
and
team.
remember, Wake Forest was the team that in the 6-pack of questions where you said who's the lock, and I said Wake because Bama's kind of weird. I'm not sure they're that good. They got hot at the right time, but Wake is really good. So I wasn't like
you weren't out on them.
No, but kind of the regionals, they kind of schlepped their way through a little.
I can see that. I can see it.
If you go back the last month of the season, they're on
They're a
fire.
terror.
Yeah. So I mean, you're kind of splitting hairs. You know what I mean? So I'm cheering for.
Would you say they're a lot like last year's Ole Miss?
Yeah. They're
playing baseball at the right time.
They're playing softball right now. I mean, that thing's got to look huge. And I like Wake. I'm an ACC honk, so I know that little. Listen, their stadium that they play in is about like this. Is about like H&H Studios here at HBC. I mean, it is a little
weird dimensions,
dude. It's a little cracker box. Now, having said that, that staff, which has a nasty ERA, has to pitch in that little bandbox too. But I'm all in on their staff. I like Wake. If I don't take, I'm taking Wake or Stanford. If Stanford gets in, now, they're obviously their ace. They need to shut him down for about a week. So,
well, how do you throw 150 pitches in a game? How do you allow that to happen?
I know, and it's not. So that's probably the second or third time in the last 4 or 5 years a number has crept up there, and like the critics will. There's always some pitcher that has this weird outing, and all of a sudden we're kind of up in arms.
I mean, but I wouldn't be mad if it was like 110.
No, I'm.
But we're talking about 4 more innings of baseball.
I can't.
Like that's an egregious number.
I can't defend it.
Right?
I can't. I won't. It's I understand.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When a pitcher is hot, when he's feeling good, you don't want to ruin the momentum he's on. I'm for it. But we're not trying to pitch for a perfect game here. We're not trying to pitch for a no-hitter. We're not trying to pitch for a shutout. So why are you leaving one of your star pitchers in to potentially hurt himself and then just lower your chances as you get to the CWS,
What
as
point
you get to
did
the
you
show?
think they were out of the woods where they could have got him off the bump?
I said after the 8th inning. He was already up there in pitches. Yeah. But you know what? He's striking guys out. They're not seeing him well. He doesn't seem to be showing any type of flaw with his velo.
When they make it 5-2, they brought in Steele, and he promptly gets raked. Maybe another inning or two after that. Do you feel like you're in the
clear?
In the tree of trust yet?
That
one's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I just a team as good as Stanford, and look, this is coming from somebody outside looking in. I don't know the ins and outs of their pitching staff, but where they are today, they're not built on one pitcher.
Yeah.
They have a very good staff. We've been talking about their staff a lot more this year than we were last year when they came in with just offense. So they have bodies backed up in that pen. Do you feel like you're comfortable enough with your lead to throw your closer out there? Yeah, I think so. Preserve your arm. Preserve your southpaw.
Tell you what, if it works out, because you got to think that was Sunday. They'll be if they win, they're in the second half of the day 2, folks. So he's going to get a week minimum, and they could be 1-0. I don't know. I don't know. You have to win now, and Esker knows what he's doing. I mean, he's not like he hasn't been here before, and he's got to know his guys. But 156 is a big, big number. And listen, they cut to him in the dugout. What inning was that? It might have been 2-2 still. So probably the 3rd or the 4th inning, and he was felt like he had a good like he just knows what he's doing.
Yeah, this isn't the 60s though.
No,
you're not throwing 170 pitches.
It's not even the 80s or the 90s, right? I mean, I can't
in today's world, especially in college. Like now I'm getting to the college pro argument. Like if you're in the pros and you're throwing that number, like, okay, you're mature enough at this point.
You're not even doing that in the pros.
But you're not. They're not allowing you to do that. But if you were in the pros, it would make more sense.
110 and they think it's like, oh, we got
the world.
We got to shut him down.
It's the end of the world.
So it's like, I don't know.
Well, in the pros too, you see like a rookie come out. He's through 6 innings. He has a perfect game going, but he's at 98 pitches, and you're like, we can't throw him out there again because we don't want to hurt his arm this early.
Yeah.
Like they worry, but where's the worry at this point when a guy's throwing 156 pitches?
I tell you what, go Cardinal. Although I don't think Texas is the brand recognition is better,
but they don't have what they had last year.
But the college baseball history with Stanford is right on par. Now
they may not run up the Jello shot count over at Rocco's.
They're not. And by the way, does Tennessee get it done today? You talk about brand star-studded name power. If Tennessee gets past Southern Miss and you add a Texas and a Stanford, boy, that field is.
Tennessee should win.
It's everybody and then Oral Roberts.
Tennessee should win. But after watching Southern Miss, it almost seemed as if they could go up against a first-round pitcher, Chase, if they could go up against Chase and really rock him to 4 runs, what can they do with the rest of that pitching staff? So I would not sleep on Southern Miss one bit, but in terms of, hey, the amount of people that you could bring out just because of the talent on that roster, you want Tennessee here, not Southern Miss.
Should be.
Yeah, the road to Omaha is interesting. We'll continue that conversation with Ben Upton. A little too late to get to Michigan Lance. We'll wait until the next segment, just because by the time we bring him in, he wouldn't even get to his point.
Yeah, who knows?
Before we have to go to break.
What he wants to say.
But he's going to talk about high school recruiting. There was another name on the list, and I'd be remiss, DB, if I didn't bring up Sam Coke's boy, Camden Coke.
Yeah, Cook.
Is it Cook?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Dang it.
It's okay.
There was a guy that I covered, Matt Coke, in Cherokee, Iowa, pitched for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I passed a lot of little small towns in Iowa. I didn't know Bettendorf was right on the border either.
Yeah, K-O-C-K can be pronounced a ton of different ways.
Yeah. That's okay.
It's okay. Could have sworn I got that right. I'll take it. I'll I'll own it, DB.
I'm not a Laverne.
We're on an own it stance this morning.
Hey,
I'll own it.
These text strands.
Doesn't matter. I love kickers, and he's on Nebraska's roster.
These text strands going back and forth. I'm not here for it.
Welcome to the mafia.
Yeah,
Camden, welcome. Welcome to the Andrew Rogers fan club.
I gotta recalibrate and refocus.
Or maybe fandom.
Yeah.
Is what that should be.
For sure.
All right, when we come back, we'll touch on high school recruiting with Michigan Lance. Maybe we'll get into how we're slumming it this morning. Who knows? Who knows?
It's a relative term, man.
And Sam McKewon is on deck at 8 o'clock, so stick around for that. More CNC after the break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes.
Swinging a ground ball up the middle, and that is going to get through for a base hit past the diving shortstop Mooney. Home from third, Stefan up to second base due to a Griff O'Farrell. Once again, field long run to Giacomo. He's not going to get there. Virginia's 12th run. Pitches Rick. Settles in for a base hit. Another Kyle Teal RBI. His 4th of the ball game. He faces Anthony Stefan. And the pitch is ripped to the right side and long gone. Anthony Stefan clears the bullpen and puts up Virginia's 12th run just to give the home fans one last chance to rise and cheer this Cavalier offense. Virginia poured it on as Stefan has left the yard for the second straight day. Number 5 for Tony this season. 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. A new season best for Brian Edgington. He's got his 11th strikeout of the ball game. 2 outs, bases clear. Everybody on their feet. Edgington into the windup. Swing and he pops it up. Left field, shallow left. Geloff out. Tuff is in. It's Colin Tuff. He makes the catch. And with win number 50 on the season, it has punched Virginia's ticket to Omaha. For the 6th time in program history, the Virginia Cavaliers are heading to the College World Series.
Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, I didn't get too far into this, but Ken on YouTube asked, how many pitches does Quinn Matthews average during a normal game? And so I tried to catch back a little bit.
Did you stat broadcast?
No, I just kept going through their schedule. Like, okay, which games did he pitch like 7 or more innings just so I could get a good gauge? Well, in his last 2 outings, he pitched 114 pitches and 115.
So, yeah.
Which, if that is his average, if I keep going back and it's roughly around there, that's cool.
It's still not 156.
It's not 156. Like, that's just what it ultimately comes down to. That is still too excessively high to expect out of a pitcher.
And
too excessive.
Like I said, I can't defend the number, but all I know is that Esker has kind of been here before, and I think he knows his guys. Now that doesn't, as I'm learning, listen, that doesn't excuse culpability, right? Oh, I know him, right? It doesn't make it okay. So I don't know enough. I just know on the surface 156 seems high. It is high. There's no seam. There's no seaming to it. But then again, I mean,
even if that
probably
said
what was it, 10 years ago, I watched Michael Roth throw, I don't know, 300 pitches in like 5 days. But is it
better because it's broken up?
I can't remember who was my guy from Oregon State that threw every other game.
Was it recently?
Oh, it was probably. Remember, it's kind of a blur for me from like 10 to 18. Like I get all the. Remember, I'm the guy that thinks.
So it's not super
like
recent then.
Right?
It's not like Cooper Jerpy.
No. Nope. No. Tanner was still coaching South Carolina, so it was pre-16. And what's his buckets was still at Oregon State. And this was before his pitcher got in trouble over the assault allegations. So we're going back. It's probably double-digit years.
Okay.
I think Mitch Canham was playing. So somebody will help me. If I give enough,
you give enough information, you'll get to the name.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Let's check out Michigan Lance on line 1, Shaner, and talk high school recruiting. I pushed him off this long. Might as well bring him in now. What's up, Lance? Good morning.
What up, Lance?
Hey, good morning, boys.
How are you?
You hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Man, you guys are cutting out. Is that me or you, Sylvester?
Oh, you sound fine for us.
Yeah, I can't hear you guys. Should I call back?
Yeah. What do you mean you can't hear us? You sound crystal clear.
Yeah, I'll call back. I can't hear nothing. It's cutting out bad.
Okay.
Regardless, though, it sounded like he was replying to us. So if he couldn't hear us at all, I kind of like how it matched up perfectly. Like, can you hear us? Can you not? But no, we'll wait and wait for his call. Give us a ring back. The other thing that I wanted that's been bugging me, like I said, was the act of Nebraska so-called being, or calling it the slum of the Big Ten West. Let me use the exact words here. It beats slumming in the Big Ten West. That's what people got mad about on social media. So what does that tell you? Well, like I said, I sat on that information a lot over the weekend, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna craft up my own point, and then I'm gonna look at what everybody else was saying, because it's causing conversation whenever you look at the tweet and see that there's significantly more quote tweets than there are retweets, and so I sat back and I thought, well, what's wrong with that? And it was sparked because I saw a few things already. And I'm like, okay, so what's wrong with calling it slumming it in the Big Ten West when you look at where Nebraska is today, and because they want to move on and play even tougher opponents more consistently, you're mad because, like, if they were bad in the Big Ten West, why can't they be bad somewhere else? Like, that's kind of what I first thought. And then I thought, okay, well, if you are mad because they came to the conference and didn't live up to expectation, well, as much as that's Nebraska's fault, look at yourself in the mirror too, and how successful have you been during this division split, East and West?
What if it was just simply Nebraska hasn't been good, and they're included in the context of what he said?
And they're absolutely included in it.
So
absolutely,
what made it a set aside or a set apart that it was inferred that they were different than or better than?
Essentially, what people took it as was, hey, they think they're better because they're playing in conditions that are worse than what they're used to, but they're bad. So why would they be pulled in to a Big Ten West that's been better than them? And I don't think that's the case. I think that's just how people took it. How people took the word. Because for me, I wasn't bugged by it. Now, granted, I'm not an Iowa football fan. I'm not a Wisconsin fan. I'm not a enthusiastic Husker fan either. So I'm looking at it from like a broader perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think anybody should be mad about the term, whether it was used as so-called clickbait, as many media outlets said, which if it was, good for Tom Chattel because he got clicks for what he had first posted. But ultimately, all I thought of in the end was, is the problem you can't use the word because you're factored into the word, or are you just mad that one of the worst teams in the conference pulled you into it? And so now I'm trying to understand both perspectives, and I can't, because in all facets of the word, you are pulled into it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you went 7-4, whether you went 8-3, we'll say even you went 9-2, you still didn't beat the Big East or the Big East. You still didn't beat the Big 10 East Division.
Yeah.
So
listen.
What are you mad at?
And I like Doc, and maybe it's just colleagues having good-natured fun, but I think I know what Tom Chattel was saying, and it's listen. In this division, in which Nebraska has also been bad, it has not been good, relatively speaking. I don't think he made the discernment, or he separated the best of the worst, which is what I think the conversation turned into. If you're trying to poke holes at what he said, well, we're the best of the worst. You're the worst of the worst. Like, how can you say? I don't think that's what he meant. I think he meant, listen, if I'm a bum and I'm bumming it,
why don't I just bum it against the better teams?
Why don't and I'm gonna bum it anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Like, give me the opportunity in its totality.
And I think that 100% is Michigan, UCLA, USC, and Ohio State better teams than the teams in the Big Ten.
Can I ask something real quick?
In the East.
Why do we automatically lump UCLA in with like
recent history? We'll just go with recent history.
But who are they better than? That like have they been better than Penn State?
No. Just the West is what I'm pulling them better than.
So who's got the better record, do you think, in the last 10 years? Wisconsin or UCLA?
Oh, Wisconsin for sure.
Okay.
100%.
Iowa or UCLA?
Iowa.
Correct.
But so when I say recent history, like under Chip Kelly and how they significantly have gotten better over the
3
last
years ago was about to get ran out of there.
Yeah, but the last 3 years he's been pretty dang okay.
Okay.
And so I'm pulling them in because if you look at just last year, for example, you're looking at a ranked team. You're not looking at a ranked team in Iowa. You're not looking at a ranked team in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. So if we're going with history, now we're talking history, DB. So can we factor history into Nebraska here? Is that okay? Because if we're going to be Iowa, if I'm going to be Wisconsin and say, well, historically, I'm still better than X team. Well, historically, Nebraska is still better than you.
Yeah. I'm going to ask the question. So in 13 and 14, UCLA had 10 wins. Does that surprise
total?
You? Yeah. No. Each year.
Oh, that does surprise me.
Okay. Nebraska was averaging 9 a year from like 9 until 15.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In 2015, UCLA was, or in 2016, UCLA was 4-8, 6-7, 3-9, 4-8, 3-4. Does that sound familiar? I'm gonna say that again from 2016: 4-8, 6-7, 3-9, 4-8, 3-4. In 2021 and 2022, they were 8-4 and 9-4, with Dorian Thompson-Robinson playing his 17th and 18th year in college football. Can UCLA be good? Sure. I'm not here to. I'm saying, why do they get the benefit of the doubt to go along with USC when we lump those two schools together?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of because if we're just moving in a short window, I mean, we should be thinking about Michigan State. Since Nebraska's been in the Big Ten, we should be thinking about Michigan State differently than we do. Michigan State from like 2009 to 2017.
Yeah, they're pretty dang good,
right? But they don't get the benefit of the doubt. So I'm just curious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the idea of expansion and getting, bigger markets in carries a lot of hype with UCLA.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they get the benefit of the doubt. Plus, if you look at, recency bias, it's because they were competitive over the last few seasons. Time's running out on us.
Well, I mean, it happens.
Hey, Shane, do me a favor during the break. Tell Lance to call us back after we talk to Sam.
Okay.
Hey, thanks, Shane.
No problem. Good morning.
He's probably steaming Willie beaming.
Who, me? No, I'm good.
Gosh, I just look at some of these comments, DB. Excuse me.
Are you going
Lose
back
my
to
voice.
Chattel's deal?
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these comments, and I'm like,
semantics matter. And sometimes people just want to be mad to be mad. Listen, Lord knows I know.
I may find 3 of my favorite comments, and we'll talk about those later.
Well, see, there goes the principal thing again.
Yep, here I go. Sam McKewon up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Here is the sports editor for the Omaha World-Herald, Sam McKewon.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Sam McKewon.
We're gonna throw the ball, and you just stand back there and throw it where you want to go. That kind of thing.
Sam McKewon.
Are you guys going? Sure.
Now, Sam McKewon.
Hey, top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. Before we get to Sam McKewon, I want to take a moment and tell you about The Beanery, the official coffee of Coffee and Cream. The Beanery is the place to go if you are looking for that refreshing beverage in the morning, whether it's coffee, whether it's a smoothie. They also have some pretty dang good food now. If you look at their food menu, it's fantastic. They have burritos. They have stuffed biscuits. They have updated, what's the best way to, loaves, bread? I guess bread. They have lemon bread and banana bread. What would you call that, Shane? I wouldn't call that just bakery items, just updated bakery items.
Yeah, you can call it that.
Yeah, sure. So if you are looking for, whether it's a new coffee shop or, hey, you're looking for your favorite coffee shop, go check out The Beanery. The Beanery is the place for you. 4 locations throughout the area. The Beanery, again, the official coffee of Coffee and Cream. Shane, let's bring in Sam now. Sam McKewon, sports editor at the Omaha World-Herald, at SW McKewon, OWH on Twitter. Sam, good morning.
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
good morning.
What are you doing? You're driving right now, I can tell.
Well, I'm parked, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's beautiful, though.
I was going to say, it's not drop-off line anymore, or is it?
No. No. It's summer, but it feels like fall, and you got to get out in that.
Sam, gosh, a ton to get to, and I want to make sure we can hit on everything. But I was telling DB, the thing that had my mind racing yesterday, or maybe just the rabbit hole I went down, was in coordination to Tom Chattel's article about the updated scheduling and kind of the madhouse that ensued on social media. You know, the thumbs got going by the people out there over one word, and that word was slumming. And I told DB this morning, and I'm interested to hear how you interpreted it, because I know how much you kind of look into your own friends and coworkers' work, but the way
feel free to call him, he would give you all his thoughts, but we're going to have those thoughts on a podcast Tuesday, so people should listen to the podcast.
Good.
Because he'll go into what his frame of reference was and all that.
Well, this is what I thought, and tell me if I'm crazy. But what I thought was, okay, he's not targeting really anybody here outside of the fact of, well, when you make this schedule jump, you're going to see more juggernauts than you would just in conference play. And in the same light, I don't think he said that one team in the West was a slum, and he also didn't claim that Nebraska wasn't a slum.
Yeah. So what I would say is that, Tom isn't coming at it from a Nebraska, is better than these teams perspective. I think if you were to ask him, he would say what I'm the frame of reference I'm talking about here is that division just wasn't it wasn't a very exciting and hasn't been a very exciting division. It just doesn't move the needle the way that other divisions too. Now I would maybe argue back, well, these are the Big 12 North. So I don't know that I thought the Big 12 North was a great division itself, but I think from my perspective, I'll say this, and this isn't really a point that was in the column. I do think that Nebraska had, and as did every other team in that division, had a challenge, and the challenge was, how do you win your division versus how do you win the Big Ten?
Mm-hmm.
And winning the Big Ten, obviously, is one football game. It's beating Michigan. It's beating Ohio State. None of the Big Ten West teams did that. Only a couple of them came close. Most of them did not. And in recent years, none of them did. Like it hasn't been a close football game since I think 2017. You know, it was like the last close. And so I think part of what rewarded you in the Big Ten West is playing the way that Iowa and Wisconsin did, and Nebraska didn't do that very well. It's not what they came into the league doing well, and they never got to the point where they could do what Iowa and Wisconsin does as well as Iowa and Wisconsin do it. And then simultaneously, I think there were several years, where Nebraska had to play the two best teams in the league on top of that. They had to play the two best teams in the league in 2018. They had to play the two best teams in the league in 2021. They actually had to play the three best teams in the league in 2021, and none of them were in the West. So there was all these sort of, complications over the years. In 2016 or 2017, they had to play Penn State and Ohio State when they were the two best teams. So Nebraska's had, a tough draw in terms of its schedule quite a few times. And I think there's, they've had to try to be of two minds, How do you beat Minnesota, which wants to hold on to the ball for 35 minutes? And then how do you beat Ohio State, which doesn't care how long it holds on to the ball, but it's going to beat you via explosive plays? Nebraska doesn't necessarily have to be of that split personality as much anymore, although their 2024 schedule does include a lot of the teams that they were playing in the West. So I think that there's probably, it's good that the Big Ten West is going away. It is simultaneously true that Nebraska never did very well in that division. Nebraska's got to own that. And there's not a hell of a lot you can do about it, because the West is going to be over after this year, which means the critique about Nebraska not winning in the West can go on forever, because they're not going to do anything this season that's gonna change the overall narrative, I don't think. So I think that's probably where it's at. There's a segment, and I appreciated all the comments that I saw from other Big Ten media. Some of those folks just like poking Nebraska. Some of them I think are making a reasonable critique, and that's all fine. Then today, and I did not write this in coordination with Tom. I think what I was trying to say in my column today was Nebraska views itself as a blue blood college football program, and a lot of these teams don't. Iowa doesn't view itself that way, nor do they have to. I mean, they kick Nebraska's butt most years, but they don't view themselves that way. Minnesota doesn't view itself that way. Wisconsin doesn't view itself that way. If those programs viewed themselves that way, they would play harder. They'd play tougher schedules, non-conference, than they do. Nebraska still envisions itself as sort of that kind of team, and they act accordingly. I'm not sure it's going to work out for them, but I don't know that Nebraska knows how to be any other way. I think it's hard for them to envision themselves as the regional power that national media wants it to be. And to be clear, national media has a much more prominent, whatever you want to call it, presence in the sport now because of Twitter. So, years ago, it was just a couple of magazines, and if you didn't pick up the magazine, you didn't know. But now on Twitter, you can see that stuff all automatically, and it makes it, just evident how national media people think.
Well, you're probably right. I need to send a message to Chattel and just thank him for taking up my Sunday, because that's all I was thinking about and also reading about. But go check out Sam and Chattel's podcast tomorrow, as Sam just noted, because I'm sure you'll get a lot of good thoughts there. But I like your answer, because you kind of kept it a little bit vague for everybody out there, so that you guys could really go into more detail tomorrow. Stick with kind of what you were talking about, or maybe along the same lines, because another thing I thought about after reading your article was, can you sit here comfortably today and say, by the time the extended college football playoff rolls around, do you have a good gauge on what that will look like, who the committee will look for in regards to RPI, or do you still think it will just come down to the number in a team's win column and or the popularity of the conference that they play in?
I think what you want to do is you go from the bottom and you move up. So what you're going to look at is, what does the 12, 13, 14, 15 line look like? And does the committee shift its thinking and its criteria around what the final teams in the playoff will be, invariably, that's where the leagues will shift their focus to. Who was who was 11, who was 12, who was 10, what at-large teams made it at the end, were they open to an 8-4 team making it? 8-4 being probably the worst record that you could envision there. I would guess that most of the teams have 2 or fewer losses. We'll see if a 3-loss team makes it in. I think a 3-loss team could make it in. Sure. That's definitely possible. The one thing to remember about the playoffs is that the top 4 teams are conference champions. So, you could argue that the SEC has the top 3 teams in the country, but they will not be that way in the rankings. The SEC will be, the number 2 SEC team will be 5th, regardless of how good they are. Doesn't make much difference. So that'll alter the conversation a little bit, because there'll be teams in that 12 line that feel like they got screwed. They'll feel like they got ripped off because they got to play whatever Alabama or whatever in that team. So I think there's the thing to watch is just how they look at it. My sense is, because they're human beings and they don't have any defined criteria other than broad principles that are thrown out the window the minute that they feel a certain way, I think they'll just go ahead and continue to pick them. Not that they're making uninformed decisions. I think they're making informed decisions, but they won't be held to anything other than which coach in the room says, "Hey guys, you know what guys? Hey, I coached this game for 30 years, and I'm telling you that this team here is the team that we need to have in. And you guys can vote however you want, but this is that's what's going to happen. I think that's already happened. And it's not going to, well, you can look at any stats you want, but I'll tell you what, if I had to pick between, this team and this team, I'd rather play this team, which means the other team is the team that should be 12. I mean, why wouldn't that be a compelling argument? So you have to take all those things into account, and that's usually what happens, I think. And I think the bias is already built in. Everybody thinks Alabama and Georgia are better. It doesn't matter how many games they lose. They're better. The end.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that was constraining the committee from putting Alabama and Georgia in every year was number of losses. Well, they lost 2 games, so they can't be in. But now those teams will be in no matter what they do. So long as they lose 3 or fewer games, they're always going to be viewed as, a better team, because that's the effect of recruiting rankings and really all kinds of things. I think the playoff committee has done a pretty good job of placing teams in that event. They haven't been perfect at it. They've misfired a few times, but for the most part, they've done okay. And I'm guessing they'll do okay when it moves to 12. I don't think Nebraska is near getting into that event. But you never know.
Sam, you wrote about the 10-80-10 strategy too over the weekend, and it kind of had me think. So we had a message come across this morning, and Ken had said he thought it was the whole rule discussion of 10-80-10 was genius in its simplicity. It really is unique. But I wanted to ask you, because you probably did a ton of research here, and this is me asking as somebody that just doesn't know. But the 10-80-10 strategy, where does that take you back? Where does that take you back to? Who does that remind you of? Is there a time in Nebraska football history where you're like, this similar idea was in place when this guy was the coach?
No, he said in his little presentation that he got it from Urban Meyer.
Right, but I'm saying if there was a coach that you could compare that took a similar approach of putting, say, top performers in culture versus underachievers, which is what you wrote, does that remind you of a time in Nebraska football history?
Am I supposed to say Tom Osborne here? Is that the correct answer?
Maybe, but if it's not Tom, is there a coach that happened in the last grouping of 5 or 6 that could also fit that mold or criteria?
I think that when Osborne was the head coach, the culture was first of all, American culture was different, way different. Football culture was different. And there were things that players could take on that were just different than they would today, And so I think you could say that Osborne had that culture with the Unity Council and that the council was represented the 10. But I honestly feel like a lot of the culture back then, there wasn't a 10-80-10. It was probably like an 80-10-10. It just wasn't. There wasn't as many issues on the field related to those things. Like, guys were not always great off the field. We need to be honest about that. But on the field, I think there was an understanding of what needed to be done. Not really. I mean, I think Rule has a more. So I think he's very much more into leadership dynamics, corporate strategies. I think there's probably some people that he could have worked for that would have been similar in this mindset. I'm sure Trev Alberts appreciates it. Again, everybody's going to say that every successful thing that anyone could ever do is a derivative of 90s Nebraska. Not everything is. It just isn't. Those teams were so talented, so good, and were different. They were different than a lot of the teams they played because of the offense they ran. And the culture on the field was outstanding. The culture off the field, we can't lie about that, was not always as good, especially toward the end of his tenure. And so, I don't want to. There's things that happened again in the 90s you can't replicate today because they couldn't be replicated. So, I think he's probably relatively new in that and his approach to it. I think he gets it. Bill Belichick kind of does this, and Urban Meyer does this, and he mentioned Gallup does this. So I think there's a corporate nature to it. Some of the things he's doing, I guarantee you Nebraska didn't do. Like the stuff that he did in the spring with the points and the tournaments and the off the field things that the kids had to go to, that's all new. And so a lot of this stuff is not necessarily of his making, but he takes it and he sort of repackages it for his own use, and in that way it is pretty novel. And so I think he's doing some things that other Nebraska coaches haven't done, and we'll see if it works, but he is doing.
Sam McKewon on the phone with us now. SW McKewon OWH is his Twitter handle. Toss him a follow. He's the sports editor at the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, we got into this discussion on peer recruiting this morning on the heels of Tyson Terry committing. We saw it with Danny Kalin in the 2024 class. Now you'll probably get that with Terry in 2025. How big of a get is he for Nebraska?
Well, anytime you can get an in-state defensive lineman, it's a big deal. Especially a guy that had a lot of offers. A lot of these kids are good enough to play in many, many places in the country. The schools in the South just don't need to recruit them because they can recruit players near their area. So Nebraska needs to get players like this in the fold. They need to get a Tyson Terry in the fold. They've done that. I think there's going to be more good players in 2025, and they're probably going to try to get as many of those as they can before January hits, and the coaches at other schools kind of turn their page to some of these 2025 guys. Nebraska's done a nice job they're working really hard at recruiting really everywhere, but including in-state. There's some in-state recruiting battles they're going to have to work through here, and some things that they got to play catch-up on. That's not their fault, but is their responsibility. Carter Nelson, that's going to be a dogfight. That's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to flip. We'll see what happens. A couple of these other kids, I think it's going to be interesting. Nebraska's moved on from Devon Hall. They just moved on. They're moving on there. But there's a couple others that we're just going to have to see, how it shakes out, how it falls out. And there could be a couple players who emerge too. We'll just have to, we'll get a sense of it as we move along. I don't fault Nebraska for not knowing who the kid from Papio was. That was awfully early. That was like 3 3 months into their tenure here. But everything after that, I think, they got to be responsible for. So the kid who committed to Notre Dame and the prep tight end, who's a pretty darn good player, I think. And, Nebraska will now try to catch up and get even with Iowa. That's not going to be easy, though.
Yeah, let's go right down that direction with tight end you at Iowa. We're not on the level of surprise, but when you see an offer come in from Iowa and then just offers start to pile in, is that because when they notice a tight end, people also want to be like, okay, we need to notice that too? Or did that just come down to timing, do you think?
He went to a camp. A number of schools were there. I think a lot of the schools liked him. They saw his frame and his size. I think everybody has an understanding now that the game is moving in the direction of versatile players who are tight ends. And so as a result, I think people kind of see a body and they're like, yeah, we want that guy in our program. The sport is cyclical like that. Tight ends are in right now. Everybody sees what's happening in the NFL, and I think you could make the argument at this moment that the most important pass catcher in the NFL is Travis Kelce, and he doesn't play wide receiver. He's the best, and it's because he plays tight end, and he's 6'5" and 255 pounds, and nobody knows what the hell to do with him. And, I think that's other schools are seeing that. They're like, okay, look, we got to get one of these guys. We got to get a couple of these guys because they're hard to cover, and now they're faster than they used to be. I think that's the thing. So once upon a time, a tight end might run a 4.8 or a 4.9. Now some of these guys with speed training are running a 4.5, 4.6. Well, 6'5", 230-pound guy running a 4.5. It's pretty dangerous. So that's what you're starting to see. You're starting to see, well, we want one of those guys. And guess what? Nebraska has a lot of those kind of body types. That's the one thing Nebraska's got a lot of is they don't have a lot of 6'8", 300 guys. That's Colorado. That's Wisconsin. That's Minnesota. But they got a lot of 6'5", 230 guys. And that's Nebraska. And there's tight ends in this state everywhere. And I think that's something to watch going forward is that this is going to go on year after year after year after year because there's a lot of that body type in this area. Not the giant ones, again, that's Wisconsin and Colorado, not 6'9", but 6'5" they've got. And I think those players are becoming in vogue in college football.
Sam, let me get you out on this. I apologize.
Hey,
hey, you get those weird phone calls during the show, man.
You got to take them.
Yeah, and I did. Hey, so, listen, real quick, rank the order of importance for how quick of start they've got to get off to. Wager, McGuire, Satterfield.
I lost you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me okay, Sam? Have him rank Wager, McGuire, Satterfield. Shane must have not potted me back up.
Can you hear us, Sam? I think we just lost him completely. Well, a question for another day.
That's what I get. That's what I get. God, what a headache.
Oh, man. If you missed anything with Sam McKewon, you can go back and listen to the podcast, DB. Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, I think. I know Amazon for sure.
Amazon.
Well, we appreciate Sam, even though we lost him at the very end. Interesting question, though.
I'm curious.
Yeah, so am I.
Especially for what the state's about to produce.
We'll be back after the break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Not that they're making uninformed decisions. I think they're making informed decisions, but they won't be held to anything other than, which coach in the room says, "Hey guys, you know what guys? Hey, I coached this game for 30 years, and I'm telling you that this team here is the team that we need to have in. And you guys can vote however you want, but this is that's what's going to happen. I think that's already happened."
What is going on?
He was on one.
Well, he gets rolling.
Well, I had asked him, I said, in regards to the college football playoff, because that's ultimately what, schedule talk comes down to. I said, do you have a good gauge, or do you feel comfortable today saying that you have a good gauge on what the committee will do once that time rolls around, when it's time for the college football playoff? Is it going to be...
Guys, you know what?
Is it going to be a everything's based on RPI, or is it going to be whatever the number is in the win column, that's what we're taking? And so that's when he went into all coach mode in the committee room.
Hey, guys, you know what? You know what, guys? Hey, I coached this game for 30 years, and I'm telling you.
Yeah, Sam.
Do you feel comfortable, though, like knowing what the committee is going to do when that time rolls around today? If you sat here today, like, hey, I know what they're going to do.
No, and it's interesting. But I did, along those lines, I remember last week when you asked me if I thought 9-3 would be good enough. I still think 9-3. Well, I think you're kind of closer to maybe 10-2. But I 9-3 in a couple of these conferences are going to do it because it's going to take a win over Ohio State or USC or.
And are you just taking the top 12 ranked teams, like from 1 to 12? Is that what we're taking here?
I don't think you can. They won't come out and say it, but I don't think you can.
Right.
Because
then I'm like, okay, you may have a 9-3 team squeak in because we're going based on RPI, and if say LSU is 9-3, they play in the SEC. Okay, I could see them at 14 being the team that gets in.
I mean, if SC beats, that won't be Ohio State, but hypothetically, because they didn't get the schedule in 24. But let's say SC beats Michigan and Ohio State, but loses to Colorado, Oregon, and UCLA, and Michigan and Ohio State are ranked in the top 6. Each their only loss coming to USC. I mean, you probably that's a situation in which you'd have to maybe take a look at a 9-3. But I think with 12, you'll see you could easily see a couple of 9-3 teams. You know what I mean?
I can see it more now that I sit on it, because how many 9-3 teams were there in the top? We'll even say top 10
last year, I think.
Right? And
I don't know about top 10, but for sure top 20.
Right. So if we're going along those lines of, okay, like you may have 3 tough losses, which is why you sit where you sit, or you may have one that ended up being like can't believe you lost that one, which people in the state know that all too well. I could see the point of a 9-3 team. It just doesn't seem to me like a 9-3 team gets it done in a playoff format versus a 11-1. A 10-2.
I guess,
and that's I guess that's where my head went.
Yeah,
but there's not enough.
Depend on
how many 10-2 teams are there, though. That now you have me thinking there may not be that many. There may only be 8 10-2 teams,
especially with some of these power conferences aligning. I mean, 2 losses isn't going to be bad, and you get a third one and a tough non-con or something. I don't know. Maybe you may get a little grace.
Let's go to line 1 now, Shane, and talk to Michigan Lance. Hopefully, he can hear us this time around. Lance. What's up, man?
I can, boys.
All right. Good morning to you.
What's up?
Man, DB, you should have hit me up last night, man. I couldn't sleep either. Should have hit me up on 3-way.
I stopped doing 3-way like when I was like 13, man.
I've never done a 3-way.
Listen, I'm not talking about the Zion Williamson kind either.
Oh, okay. Got you. I got you. Yeah, only in Dallas.
Hey, man. Great. I love the recruiting and camps that I saw this weekend out of Nebraska with Caleb Benning in the house.
Yeah.
Tyson Terry committing and our guy Ken Keith, his son,
Caprice,
out there at camp. Man, he looked good.
He's a big kid.
Yeah. He, I like his footwork. You know what I mean, from what I've seen so far. So
it's a good camp when Bellevue West backup quarterbacks get run.
Yeah, wow. That's I ain't gonna lie, I was speechless. I'm like, the backup?
No, he's a good player,
yeah.
man. I mean, I think they liked him at Millard West. I just think he just didn't want to wait.
Oh, I didn't know that's where he came from.
Yeah, well, that's the second Millard West guy that I'm like I said, I joked a couple weeks ago. Coach P will not be sending Coach Huffman any holiday gift bags. I mean, because you remember, because Glance came from Millard West.
Yeah, and that was kind of that was some stuff rumbling. That's what kind of started that stuff. I remember that.
Yeah.
But wasn't the quarterback for Bellevue West now? Give me his name again.
Danny Kalen.
Yeah, but he was getting recruited as a backup too at Bellevue West. So they're on a roll.
Yeah, yeah, because he was playing behind Johansson and had offers without, I think, only 1 or 2 starts.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, man. So business as usual. And, and then a great addition to the Metro this weekend, Omaha South Packers hiring my guy, DeJuan Johnson, and your guy, too, was your D-line coach at Northwest and
it's
my defensive coordinator at Concordia.
So what's he doing with DJ? Is he coming or staying?
As of right now, today he's staying. He's down at
it's his son. Really good.
Yeah, and he's at Martin, Arlington Martin, where the tight end coach at Nebraska is from.
Yep.
And so, he got a starting position in the spring. Just got invited to the Baylor camp, was down there this weekend, got a couple mid-major offers. So he's kind of established. But you never know. I mean, but I know as today he won't be coming.
That's a gutty move, man. Leaving his kiddo for his senior year.
Yeah.
To come coach back home.
And, he was already coaching at another school. He was coaching at Dunbar, Fort Worth. So, I mean, it is. But I think because he's pretty well established down there, that's why he's not, and DB, the qualities you talk about, Matt Rule, those are in DeJuan Johnson. Like the grinder, the developer, the community guy, like how Matt Rule's all in state. DeJuan is an Omaha guy, born and raised, coached middle school OPS, high school OPS, Little League, the Warriors. So and he's not looking for another job. Like he's happy about South. He's excited. He's not using South as a stepping stone.
Oh, okay.
I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
And that's what they need. DB, remember in 2011 when he was your D-line coach, and we had a kid by the name of Brandon. I can't remember his last name, but light-skinned kid, Brandon. And we tried him at different positions, fullback and linebacker, but he didn't work out. And DeJuan took a lot of the D linemen. Those were guys that couldn't play other positions. Well, against Bryan, they had a good quarterback, and a quarterback broke for like 50. And Brandon is a nose tackle. I mean, hawks that kid down from the angle and tackled him 50 yards down the field.
Yeah,
was like, whoa.
We probably, that was one of the two games I felt like we had an actual chance to win during that tenure.
Right. But I say that
to,
that shows his tenacity of, hey man, I don't care. I'm a coach my guys and I'm going to develop them. I'm a work ethic. And I just think it's a great marriage between Omaha South and him. I think they're perfect for each other. They got the AD is who you work with at North, so he knows the blueprint of winning and building a winner.
Green Walsh is fantastic. He's about as good an administrator as the district has. He's ridiculously smart. He loves kids, and he spent the bulk of his time at North, Bryan, and now South.
Man, I'm telling you, man, look out for South Packers in the next couple of years.
Green Walsh, he's a stud. He's got an administrator that I think is going to be for kids. Green Walsh was my guy that taught me how to do. Well, he didn't teach me. I kind of just asked him. He's the great wild card points forecasting schedule maker for the playoffs.
Okay,
he is.
Because that's tricky.
He's the best in the business.
He's the informer.
Listen, he's a great person.
Hey man, when DeJuan was my DC, he introduced rugby tackling. I said, hey, I want to do something where our guys don't get concussions. And he went out and found that and brought that to our team, and it helped us do it, man. And we our defense improved, tackles, turnover. We were plus 18 in our second year turnover ratio. So, man, I'm excited and rooting for the South Packers, man.
Yeah, Team South.
Lance, we appreciate the call, man.
Hey, thanks, fellas. Have a good one.
You too. When we come back, we're talking to Brady Oltmans, Nebraska football and recruiting reporter for Hail Varsity. Get some more of your Husker fix here in the 8 o'clock hour. We will do that next. We have college baseball coming your way too, and a little bit of high school, college, NBA at the end of the show. Plus a sports cleanup still to get to. Lots to do. It's Coffee and Cream.
Clean up.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency DB AR. I don't like when I call myself AR. I think I'm going to stick with Andrew Rogers. I'm cool with you calling me that, but that didn't sound right coming out of my mouth.
Man, it's AR.
We're live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. I like DB.
You're in rare company this morning.
No. I'm just enjoying a Monday.
Man.
I knocked over my glass of water on my nightstand last night, woke up at 1 a.m, had to clean that up. That's what I get.
You're doing all right.
Dude, I'm like wrestling alligators.
I had a nice ice cold Waterloo orange vanilla flavor at 4:15 this morning. Drank the whole
Waterloo.
It's a weird
Not
brand.
Sydney Lou Who.
No. I drove by Waterloo on the way to Chicago.
Waterloo, Iowa.
Yes.
Not to be confused with Waterloo, Illinois, which would be closer to St. Louis.
Yeah, we can go there. No, Mike could have looked at me like, what? What are we doing?
What are we doing now? Well, we're talking to Brady Oltmans, DB, as he is welcome in here on a Monday. Brady, good morning. What's up, man?
Morning, fellas. So, we're just still getting up to speed on the week. You know what I mean?
Are you petting your dog? Like, what are you leaning down and doing?
Yeah, he's just chilling here next to me.
See, he could have been adjusting his sock, but I just made an educated guess. He was petting his dog.
B.O., it's interesting, right? Do you feel like you're drinking out of a fire hydrant trying to catch up with what's going on with recruiting? There's a lot of happenings, ins, outs, visits, not visits, canceled visits, recalendared visits. Like, whose schedule are you keeping?
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you what, it's a whole lot easier because it's about as hectic as the whole beat has been since like mid-October. So it's a lot easier to get adjusted to. But you just assume something's happening every hour and you need to get it. So it kind of keeps, as long as you're on your toes, it's not so bad.
It's interesting because as I sit here, I'm like, how does he keep track of it all? You look at Brady Oltmans' Twitter page and it's constant quote tweet here. Hey, this guy is coming to visit. Hey, this guy got an offer. And I'm like, does this man ever stop working? And, it's kind of fitting because you look at this staff and it's like, does this staff ever stop working? And, with the new staff, Brady, isn't that the direction you want to go? Somebody that never stops working? Or do you ever think like, they need a break? Like, let them clear the floodgates and then close up the dam and start again.
I'll do that in July.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you'd hope that they take a little bit of time off, otherwise, hence getting burnt out. I know there are a considerable amount of big time coaches that are closer to burnout now than they were before because of the NIL and transfer portal. Some programs don't even have their rosters set right now, and we're at mid-June just because, guys entered the portal late or this and that. But this staff, they prioritize care for players. I think they're trying to prioritize their care for themselves when they can, because they ask so much of the players throughout workouts and practice and everything. I mean, Matt Rule has said, they want guys in those little breaks, like between the end of the semester and now, kind of before, or I guess the end of semester and the end of May, when workouts had that break. They wanted them to go out, see family, do things in order to come back rejuvenized, revitalized, because they do ask a lot for them. And as far as like the new coaching staff goes, it's just really tough when you're transitioning coaching staffs. There's a lot of ground to make up. You see that in the offers to 2025 and 2026 classes. They want to develop those relationships now and get out in front of that and meet it on a future level, like other programs have the benefit of, like a Michigan. They've been at it for years, the same staff, so they've kind of got that groundwork. So I think this coaching staff sees it as making up ground. So they're continuing to work ahead of schedule in that sense to get caught up. But yeah, they'll probably take a little bit of a break next month here.
Brady, how many tight ends will Nebraska take? Everybody's worried about DBs. That'll sort itself out. I don't worry about that. What about tight ends?
Oh man. Well, tight end is really interesting. I think they can keep a lot because they're going to use them so much, and they're a very versatile position. I remember talking with one recruit after taking a visit to Nebraska, and they were like, you kind of got to learn to do a little bit of everything except throw the ball when you're a tight end at Nebraska. They ask you to run the football, they ask you to block for the runners, they ask you to block for pass protection or slip out into the secondary in pass, reception mode. It's a big ask. So they need dynamic playmakers to do that, but it's also a dynamic enough offense where they're asking tight ends to do so much. So, and because of that, it requires such a unique athlete. So you see guys that come in tight ends and maybe they're like, well, we'll move this person to defensive end, or we'll move them to edge rush, or we'll move them around to kind of fit where they fit in their athleticism, because it is such a unique athletic profile. But yeah, I mean, because of all of that, it's one of those positions where you can probably get away with having a couple extra bodies than you otherwise might not in just like a stereotypical, like old school 10 years ago tight end position.
In the height of camp season, they come away with a corner that was desired. You get a defensive lineman in state that was heavily desired, and you come away with a special teams player just in one weekend. So a huge recruiting weekend for Nebraska. Speaking to the in-state guy, and in terms of pure recruiting, how big is that for Nebraska now to have somebody in the 2024 class and in the 2025 class that can do the dirty work too?
Oh man. Well, I think it's incredibly important, especially when you talk about a quarterback in Danny, for the 2024 class. A quarterback has a certain bit of ownership that they try to take upon the team to get that going. And you see it at like the different positions that they have in-state, uncommitted in-state guys still available in the 2024 class. Like Isaiah was catching routes and stuff. You got Caleb still out there that's very appealing because of his dynamic skill set that he provides. You've got obviously Carter Nelson still, because of his profile, is very highly acclaimed, and he'll be taking his visit later this month. And then in 2025, now you've got your 2 commits are in-state guys that kind of build a bedrock and foundation for that class. I think that really sets Nebraska up well, especially as if this season goes as well as the rural staff hopes, and they can show proof of concept to winning and the culture and what they want to build, which just makes it far more inviting for people outside of the state lines to want to join and commit.
Brady, if you're taking a look at kind of the impacts of the camps this weekend, and fresh off the heels of coming back from Texas, you don't get the sense that there's any compare and contrasting, right? Well, these guys in this state get this love, guys here get X amount of love. I think Nebraska's done a fairly good job of making sure that those that need to know they're wanted regardless of state.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's pretty clear that kids, especially football players in Nebraska, know how important Husker football is. I mean, it's just a whole different breed. Whereas you go down to like Texas specifically, there's such a Texas tie with this coaching staff. There are a dozen, Division I pro football programs in Texas. Some kids do, because of their proximity growing up near Austin, they go, UT, they see them a lot more often, or because they're at Temple or Beltway or something, that like Baylor, A&M, wherever. But this rural coaching staff and their ties, they want to say like, if because you have so many options in Texas, you also have a second home in Nebraska. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit further away, but it's really all that you're one flight away from the major airports and everything. You've got multiple commits on the team already. You've got staff members who might have coached you or coached against you at that level. It's all building to that welcoming environment. And I think the in-state kid, the native Nebraskans, know the importance of Nebraska, but you also get in those Texas kids that are like, this can feel like home too, because it's felt like home for multiple Texans who have already shown an ability to be successful there.
Outside of a handful, 1 or 2, it seems like most of the in-state targets are on the offensive side of the ball. Rank the level of importance in terms of success for me. Bob Wager, McGuire, Satterfield.
I'd say Satterfield up top because of the coordinator position, and a guy who frankly was inconsistent at times at Carolina. I mean, when they look good, you look at that Tennessee game. I mean, I don't know if you could draw up a better execution, on offense, but I think Matt Rule would probably be one of the first ones to tell you they want consistency out of that. Bob Wager's interesting because he's got an ability to get the best out of kids and to get them to rise up to their potential and meet that. He's a very personable guy, but he's going to coach you hard. And the Garrett McGuire is an exciting one because, I think a lot of attention came upon him when he was hired. Let's be honest, folks, wide receivers coach that's not where he sees himself like as an ultimate team like goal guy. He wants to be a head coach somewhere, and he's going to fight his way up to get to that point. And so far in recruiting, he's really related with a lot of these kids, Texas and in-state. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these receiver recruits really resonate with him. So he's going to attack it. So, they're all interesting in their different ways, but I think because of importance of the position, Satterfield's the one for me that it's the most important for him to be successful, for the team to be successful.
So would Wager be 2 on that list over McGuire?
With all the tight ends.
Oh, man. I think so. Plus, you add
you're right.
He's also a special teams coach, and all the things that Arlington Martin did that were successful on special teams when he was there. I think that adds a little underlying, especially knowing the emphasis that this coaching staff has on special teams. I think that adds another wrinkle to his importance within that staff.
A little taken aback that Terry said yes so early.
Yes and no. It's really strange because looking at a calendar, it is so far out, signing day 2025 is so far out, but he's taken a lot of visits to Lincoln. This coaching staff really builds up that relationship fast and just made him feel like home. And at that point, what are you waiting for? Just, commit, let the staff be known, and then do the peer building for another year and a half or so.
Some kids are just meant to wear the N. Brady, we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, good talking with you guys.
Thanks, B.
I would keep that order 1, 2, 3 in Satterfield, Wager, McGuire, just because of how they want to use the tight ends this year.
Interesting to see if we really think that it's Satterfield's responsibility.
College baseball up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
And the pitch is ripped to the right side and long gone. Anthony Stefan clears the bullpen and puts up Virginia's 12th run just to give the home fans one last chance to rise and cheer this Cavalier offense. 2 outs, bases clear. Everybody on their feet. Edgington into the windup. Swing, and he pops it up. Left field, shallow left. Geloff out. Tuck is in. It's Colin Tuck. He makes the catch. And with win number 50 on the season, it has punched Virginia's ticket to Omaha.
Man, DB, let's not forget about West Virginia.
Yeah, meet Virginia. Yeah,
Let's
quietly.
not forget about the Cavs.
Quietly got to 50. 1 of 4.
Yeah.
They
can ball.
It's star-studded. Didn't get it going until late either. So, I mean, obviously we know the O'Connor story in Omaha, and we've seen the 30 for 30 docs. I mean, he's got them back. I think people kind of left that program for dead for a sec. They're back.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of feel-good stories. Notre Dame. I mean, there were a lot of teams in the ACC, Miami.
Yeah.
You know, Carolina made their late season run.
The only team that was relevant.
Yeah.
Or the only person that was relevant at Virginia over the last whatever amount of years, Stephen Schock.
Yeah, one of the greatest, the greatest interview in all of college sports.
As we turn our attention to Ben Upton, though, the host of the 11.7 podcast at Ben_Upton5 on Twitter. Ben, good morning. What's up, man?
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning. Man,
Ben, what a eventful weekend. Kind of what we thought would happen, right? Like, I mean, I don't want to say that Oral Roberts wasn't a surprise when they took down Oregon, but we've been on this Oral Roberts train of, well, even when regional play came along, they didn't look like your typical 4 seed. But everything you saw go in coordination with what you thought would happen?
I mean, listen, I was a big supporter of the 4 seeds this year because it's been too long since we've seen one in Omaha. And, you know, I thought that this year gave us a good opportunity with multiple 4 seeds getting to Omaha. I personally picked Wright State. But there was several other ones that like even Penn, who almost advanced out of that Auburn regional.
Yeah.
Or I mean, Santa Clara was a really good 4 seed. So, and then of course, like Oral Roberts was the best of the group, and Oral Roberts, like on the field, they're not a 4 seed. They're a 2 seed, and they showed it, and they proved it against Oregon, where their only loss in that super regional, they blew an 8-run lead. So, like, they were in control for almost all of that series, and they just proved that they're a legitimate. From top to bottom, from the lineup to the starting rotation to the bullpen to the star power that they have, they're a real threat. Like they can beat anybody in this field. So it was good seeing them advance last night and punch that ticket to Omaha.
We've seen some staff start to get hot. We know teams like Wake Forest have been there all season long. We know about the collective prowess of Florida, but they always get the ... if. You know, we wonder what happens behind LSU with the rest of that rotation. Is there a team out there who isn't as widely regarded for the guys that take the bump that you think have a clear advantage if they get good pitching?
It's really tough to say. What was your exact question? Because
so we know about the teams that are supposed to have good staffs, right? We know teams that have question marks. Who's the team that, if they get those questions answered, would be your fave? So I take Wake Forest out of it, right? Because we kind of know about we know about that pitching prowess. They've been good all year. I look at a team like LSU. Like, if they get good pitching, then I mean that changes that team's dynamic tremendously.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, LSU is, I think, the clear answer there. Where if they get good pitching, their offense is good enough to hit anybody's pitching, including Wake Forest. Another team that, like, you can really look at is, you know, if Tennessee wins today.
Yeah, that's would have been my answer.
Tennessee's one of those teams where talent level and MLB draft level, I mean, they have 3-4 first-round draft picks on that team, plus more. And, you know, they've underachieved most of the season, but late in the year they got hot again, and now they're playing good ball. And if they advance today, now Southern Miss has a legitimate chance to advance too. But, you know, I think Tennessee poses more of a threat for a national championship than Southern Miss does.
When you, I want to stay with Tennessee because that would have probably been my answer. I know a lot of people like LSU if you get something other than Skeen, and Riley was good and Guidry was good on the back end for them. But what do you make of Vitello? Kind of the quick rise, he's brash. We've seen the suspensions. We've seen his act here in Omaha. Like, when you look at the actual prowess once those games start between the white lines, where do you come out on TV?
So, I mean, he's been one of my personal favorites since, I started the podcast in 2019. He was just somebody that you watch his interviews and you're like, man, I'd go to war for that guy. And that carries a lot of weight in a locker room and with recruiting and things like that. And you're right, he is young, he's fresh. And I think last year he got humbled a little bit because of, how that Tennessee team approached the game. It was a different kind of flair than we've ever seen. And, I liked it. I liked watching Tennessee games, but losing in that super regional, definitely gave them a chip on the shoulder this year. But even if you think back to 2021, they were in Omaha. They made it to the College World Series in 2021. So, he's had a lot of success there. And, I think that he may rub some people the wrong way, but he's true to himself and he's never changed. And I think he's on his way of building a dynasty there at Tennessee.
One other team that is on the cusp of making the College World Series is Stanford. You talk about liking things. How much did you like or dislike the fact that you saw Quinn Matthews throw 156 pitches last night?
Yeah, those are video game numbers. And usually video game numbers are if you're playing Madden and you throw for 8 touchdowns. But no, 156 pitches is something you can only do in video games nowadays. And I disagreed with it. And the reason why is because there was a 5-run lead in the ninth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see Stanford saying, you know what, we just gave up 5 runs 2 days ago in the ninth inning to lose a game. And if he says he's good and, he's still loose and able to throw strikes, let's throw him back out there. So, I personally disagreed with it, but again, I don't have all the details and the conversations that we're having. I don't want to see people throwing over 130 pitches, let alone 156. That's crazy.
130 is still a high number.
Hey,
Yeah.
Relative to peak, how hot for you is TCU?
I mean, they're rolling right now. The TCU team is a lot like the Oklahoma team last year that made a run to the College World Series finals. They got hot at the end of the year, won a lot of series, won a lot of games, swept through the Big 12 tournament, swept through the regionals, swept through the super regionals. So they haven't had a taste of losing in a long time, and they're playing confidently. And going into the season, and even after that first weekend, they showed, and everybody knew that this was a really talented team. They just absolutely hit a wall in the middle of the season and just could not hit the ball. Their guys were injured out of the bullpen, and they didn't know who to rely on in the starting rotation. But now that they have everything figured out, they are a dangerous club that it doesn't matter who they're playing. They can beat them.
All right, Ben, we did this when the NHL playoffs rolled around, and I thought, you know what? Let's try to set a standard here for the College World Series. If I gave you the option to take, we'll say the big 2 once the CWS rolls around, you get Wake Forest and LSU. They're the 2 teams right now with the best odds to win. Or if I gave you the field, where are you laying your money?
That's a really, really good question. Personally, I would take LSU and Wake Forest. I think that one of those 2 will win the College World Series this year. But, you're leaving out Florida, possibly Tennessee, possibly Stanford or Texas. There's still a big group of people that can win it all. TCU is on that other side. But at the end of the day, star power usually rises in these big situations. And other than Florida, because who's loaded with star power.
Yeah, their starting pitching is tough.
Mm-hmm. And let's not sleep on Virginia either.
They got the big 3.
Yeah. That's a salty vet group right there. Virginia's got a lot of at-bats under their belt.
So why do you think because I'm like, if you ask me the question, I'm definitely taking the field because there are so many dangerous teams with hot arms. All of a sudden, Florida's figured it out. on the bump, and if they do, man, they're electric at times.
Oh yeah, 100%. And their lineup is loaded as well. I mean, they could have a top 5 overall pick in Wyatt Langford, who may even go 1-1 this year if he could get a better deal for the Pirates than Dylan Cruz.
But, I mean, Sproat is good. Waldrop is good.
31. Yeah. And so they're pitching and hitting combined. I mean, they're a very, very good team from top to bottom. So, but I still just think if Wake Forest and LSU play the way that they can play and they have been playing, they're going to be really tough to beat.
Ben Upton, host of the 11.7 podcast, on with us now at Ben_Upton5 on Twitter. All right, I have a hypothetical for you, Ben. And for all those people that, go to the ballpark just to go to the College World Series but don't have a team, okay? So you're a kid, but bring yourself back to a kid age. If you're looking to build up your autograph collection, leave it to me to bring up autograph collection.
I know.
That is me in a nutshell, if you know my personality, Ben. But give me your top 3 players kids should be excited to see. Who would be on Ben Upton's baseball list when you get to the ballpark?
Yeah. And, obviously I think there's some clear names at the top, with the Tommy Whites and the Paul Skeens, Dylan Cruz, and Jack Caglione. But
Caglione is a stud.
I think as a kid, you want to look for somebody that, isn't on everybody's radar, or maybe has a different look to them. So, I mean, Rhett Lauder is one that I think a lot of kids are going to love watching him pitch, because he works fast. He's got his own little motion and delivery, and he's got the long, luscious hair. And I think he's going to end up being a fan favorite there in Omaha. Probably dripping in sweat the whole game just because of how hot it's going to be. But and then I look to a guy from Oral Roberts, Jonah Cox, who is,
Summit knows him well here.
Yeah, Jonah Cox is having one of the best seasons we've seen, a complete season in college baseball in a long time, and he's kind of the leader of that group, and plays center field, hits in the 3-hole. So that's probably number 2. And then number 3, I'm going to go with Josh Rivera, shortstop of Florida. I think he's severely underrated just because of the star power that Florida has, but he's been a guy, a catalyst for that team all year. And he's super likable, and he plays the game in a great, fun way. And he's been a clutch hitter all year. So I would say just those 3 are names that you can look at that maybe won't have such a long line behind them, like the Dylan Cruz and the Tommy Whites, Paul Skeens, and those guys.
Yeah, Lauder too. You picked one of the few young guys on that staff too.
And if Stanford makes
that's a mature, grown-up staff at Wake, and you went with the pup and Lauder.
If Stanford makes it, watch out for Eddie Park.
Oh yeah, sweet swinging.
You get the flashiness in left field too. I mean, this is a guy that was robbing home runs last year. He's bringing in a little momentum for himself this year. I kind of like the Eddie Park game.
Yeah, I do too.
Who wins that, Ben? You like Stanford or Texas?
I think Stanford.
I do too.
Tonight.
I do too.
They did the same thing last year in the Super Regional, lose game 1 and come back and win game 2 and 3. The fun fact: Stanford is 10-0 all time in home Super Regionals. So they've never lost a home Super Regional, and obviously those are different players playing back then and all those years. But they've done it the last 2 years. Home Super Regionals advanced into Omaha, so. I'm going to stick with them. I think they just know how. I think they're the better overall team, even though Texas is super talented too.
Ben, a lot of people had mixed emotions over Indiana State and not hosting, even though they were on pace to host, but then, an event took place, so they moved that down to TCU. How much of a disadvantage was that for them being away from their fans, or do you think it plays more advantage to the players because in a lot of instances, the games you remember are the games you play on the road?
Yeah, that was kind of my spin zone there is if you're Indiana State, obviously you want to play at home and you want to have that home crowd behind you. But because of those logistical reasons and everything, they actually made a mature decision to say, we cannot place a bid in Terre Haute because of the Special Olympics and the huge crowd that we're going to have, and all of our workers are going to be volunteering over there. So the spin zone that I put on is like, actually, they got to play in front of like close to 9,000 people both games in a great atmosphere, and those stories are going to last forever. Like, people are going to reminisce more with like, oh, we got to play the Super Regional against TCU in front of record crowds. Because they got to host the conference. Indiana State got to host their conference tournament at their home field and the regional, so they got a good taste of big crowds there and max capacity. But it was still a third of the amount of people that they saw at TCU. So I think that experience itself is valuable.
Ben, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for your time this morning. Enjoy the continuous road to Omaha, and if you find yourself in Omaha, give us a shout.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me on again, and you guys enjoy it too.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate you.
Ben Upton, host of the 11.7 podcast at Ben_Upton5 on Twitter. You know who would be I'm just thinking about this, now that we're talking about people we want to see in Omaha. Somebody that would be really great, and I'm gonna start bugging him again. We got to get Steven Schock. Because Virginia's here, I think that will just play into his realm of specialties even more. I mean, that's a guy that if you're looking for a personality,
he keeps
look no further.
He keeps it 100.
Look no further.
Another day of per diem, man. Inflation. I can give me some ice cream.
Something else that happened. I'm going to keep it with baseball here, DB, because something else that happened over the weekend that I think kind of got slept on. But
you're anxiously awaiting Kevin O'Sullivan interviews.
Yes.
Wow. That guy is not like doing interviews. I can't wait to see who gets those dugout assignments.
Can I please choose the other one?
He just always acts like he's bothered.
Wouldn't you be bothered, right?
I don't know, man. They're pretty good.
They are very good.
They're
very good team. No, when I was watching baseball, Major League Baseball over the weekend, and I wasn't having a lot of fun watching the Cardinals get swept by the Reds.
I tell you, it goes back to your comment 3 weeks ago about when you were predicting the schedule at the end of May.
I said it's going to be a problem if you're not 500 by the end of May.
Yeah.
And look what happened. We are halfway through the month of June, essentially. And what have they lost? Like 9 games?
Yeah.
9 games out of the 12 that they played?
Role reversal.
So I saw this. I didn't watch this. I saw Andrew McCutchen.
We could be Kansas City, so you're okay. Wowzer.
Or Oakland.
Oh, Oakland actually kind of got it going.
Well, they started winning games because people started betting the opponent, and all of a sudden, Oakland scores 7 runs in the first inning.
They're 500 in their last 10, I think.
Andrew McCutchen got number 2,000 over the weekend. Do you know how many players have 2,000 hits? Like, Shane, think about it in your head. How many players have 2,000 hits in Major League Baseball history?
I'm going to say 17.
17.
That's probably high.
What do you got?
2,000. I'll say 42.
What if I told you that 290 players in Major League Baseball history have 2,000 hits?
That seems high.
That seems incredibly high.
Seems really high.
And so then I thought, why are we marking this as a milestone if 290 people have done it? I know it's impressive. Don't get me wrong.
It's not in its totality of all the players that have played baseball. Though.
Right.
But 292 is a big number.
290. Can you believe that? 290 players in Major League Baseball history have 2,000 hits. I sat back and I thought, well, this isn't why is this worth a headline? 2,000.
Wow. You know what's a headline? Because you've been teasing it. I don't know if you're trolling me or you want me to feel good because I said that the Diamondbacks would be good. Do you know how many games out the Dodgers are now of the Diamondbacks?
I don't, but let me take a guess. Last week they were tied.
Yep. Yeah. Good frame of reference.
So I'm going to say, because they kind of fell off a little bit, I'm going to say they're 3 games back.
They're 3.5 back of the Snakes. 3.5 back all of a sudden. It's like the weekend happened and Arizona just keeps winning.
Well,
and the Dodgers not so much. Dodgers got to get healthy, but I'm telling you, man, flipping D-backs.
Yeah, I was flipping Adley Rushman off this weekend because
hey, how good is he though? Let's keep it 100.
He's a stud, but he went 0
the,
for 4 when I needed him to hit a bomb. Let me tell you this bet.
He is here we go.
Degenerate Andrew.
Yeah.
Into the chair. Hold on, let me put on his headset. Here, Andrew. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I had a bet this weekend. 4-player parlay, all home runs, $10 to win $7,200. I had Corbin Carroll to hit a bomb, green check mark. I had Fernando Tatis Jr. to hit a bomb.
No, he's swinging that thing too. Good choice for Tatis.
Green check mark. That was also in Colorado, so you knew the ball would fly. I had Mookie Betts to hit a bomb, green check mark. And then I had Adley Rushman to hit a bomb. Orioles on the road batting second. I thought he hadn't hit one in about 7 games.
What was that payout?
7,200.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, 0 for 4. Appreciate you, Adley. Appreciate you.
He's a stud, though. I got nothing negative to say about.
Hey, another Oregon State Beaver.
He's unbelievable. I never even got the name. I'm trying to think. I'll ask Kugler. He'll know because he was still doing broadcasts then. I'm telling you, it seemed like he was throwing every other day. Rushman's in a skit. Rushman's hitting $150 in those last 7 games.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. I know. I experienced
You're
it.
Such a hater. He's a stud, though.
Hey, I'm cool with you being a stud, but if you're batting below the Mendoza line, yeah, you can just, tinkle right off.
800 OPS for a catcher.
I'm for it. What was his slugging? Because I think that's why I chose him. And I think it was slugging against a lefty. I may be wrong because he's a lefty.
He is slugging. Where are you, buddy?
119.
I hope it's more.
Wow, what is he slugging? I'm getting the splits. I want the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, give me the whole thing.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I'm a little slow.
Normally, I'm the Googler.
Yeah,
not the Kevin Kugler, the Googler.
The Googler.
He is slugging 410 as a whole this year, but now I'm
looking at see this.
Yeah, I want to see against lefties and righties because I can't remember who he was facing, but it was the one that was significantly better.
Oh yeah, he's slugging 364 against lefties, 433 against righties.
Okay, so it was against a righty.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, 430.
Slugging 562 at home, so that's where he needed to go.
Dude
back to the
can rake. Not when I place a bet on him.
Is that what? So you had 3 out of 4, huh?
3 out of 4.
I can't believe that paid out so much. That seems like a ton.
Plus 500 for Carroll, plus 650 for Rushman, plus 280 for Tatis, and plus 330 for Mookie Betts.
I got a couple of buddies that were riding with Teofimo Lopez this week at like plus 210.
I felt like I got hit by a truck. You know who else got hit by a truck?
So did Taylor. He felt like he got hit
by
a truck.
I was thinking more like Adam Hadwin. We'll talk about that next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Things you wanted us to get to from the weekend, but we didn't.
Cleanup on aisle 6.
It's the Coffee and Cream Sports Cleanup on Hail Varsity Radio.
It's that time, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency.
It's not committed yet.
Andrew Rogers. Yep, I just went to his Twitter page just to double check, and that would be correct. Prada, he's a Billiken. Did you know that? I think that's what they are. Aren't they the Lil Bills or something like that?
For Wingo's High School. That's right down the road from you, right?
Aren't they like the
you
Billiken
would know,
Juniors?
You would know better than I would.
Yeah.
It's in your stomping grounds.
I should, but you are like, oh, they're the Junior Bills. Okay, I was close.
Junior Bills.
I said Lil Bills.
Hello. That was a cartoon.
That was Gene Hackman.
No, it was he was Lil Bill.
He was Lil Bill.
And Unforgiven.
That's kind of funny.
But Little Bill,
I kind of like that more than Junior Bills.
Little Bill was Google Little Bill. It was a little brother, a little cartoon.
For those who want to know who we're talking about and can't decipher it, we are talking about Ryan Wingo. Little Bill. This guy?
Yeah, that's Little Bill.
I watched this. I remember the T-shirt.
Yeah, that little kid was funny.
Is it Gene Hackman?
No, this does not look like Gene. I don't know.
As a matter of fact, I don't think Gene would have liked him because he sure didn't like Ned.
Yeah.
Not that. I mean, what?
Hey, Shane, if you were
thought
wondering
about that,
the program creator is Bill Cosby.
Before you go pre-conviction of roofies.
BTW.
By the way.
Speaking of Gene Hackman, and then you
should
guys
have thought
can
about
talk
that before you go decorating your salon with my friend.
I watched a a making of on The Silence of the Lambs. He was originally going to be the one who was going to direct it, but didn't. And he was actually going to star in it too.
Gene Hackman?
Yep. They progressed down the road with that.
They made the right choice. That's one of the greatest movies of all time.
Who's the Gene that was the host on
Wilder?
Is that who it was? Gene Wilder? No, isn't he like Charlie and the Chocolate or Willy Wonka? Wasn't he Willy Wonka? I got there.
Stir crazy.
Who's the Gene that did the game show with like the 6 people on the panel and they had a match? Is it Match Game?
Gene?
Yeah, who was the Gene from Match Game?
I'm not good at that, so I don't know.
Shane?
Gene Autry? I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up. Gene Rayburn. That's who it was.
Said Gene Autry.
I don't even know.
He's
who that
the
is.
guy whose hair he had those teeth. He looked like the guy that does Mad. That's the Mad cartoon. He looks like Alfred E. Newman. That Gene Rayburn you're talking about. He looks like the grown-up version of Alfred E. Newman.
Here you go.
That's totally an old Alfred. Now Google Alfred E. Newman. That's who Gene Rayburn reminds me of. I know. I'm jealous.
Neuman?
Yeah. Sports six pack. Clean up.
This is funny. This is funny. This is really funny.
He looks like Alfred E. Newman.
Oh my goodness. Look at this.
Is that Buttigieg?
That is Buttigieg.
Wow.
Isn't it Buttigieg? Something like that. It says, can I read this headline? I'm going to do it. On the New York Post had this headline. Trump compares Pete Buttigieg to Mad's Alfred E. Newman.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
No.
Oh, good.
Stick to sports.
Side note. Something else that I thought was really funny over the weekend was I just imagine getting laid out twice in one weekend. Okay. You were laid out by a security guard on the golf course as a pro golfer and the other on social media by your wife.
Wow. Who got slept by their wife?
That would have been Adam. Adam Hadwin.
Really?
So he tweeted out a photo of the dishwasher and was talking about like how it was such like a poor use of space, like bad space management, and tagged his wife.
Yeah, that's a me thing.
And so I'm going to reach you.
Have you ever seen bowls put in there lengthwise as opposed to like I don't understand how. Never mind, because.
So this is what it says. Anybody seen a worse display of space management? And tagged his wife. Okay, you see that?
That's all she got on the top row.
Okay, this is her response. We all fall short on our weekend jobs, eh?
Wow. Touche. I like her sense of humor.
Michael Kim comes in and just go, oh my God. And someone woke up and chose violence.
Wow, touche.
Yeah.
She's pretty quick.
Oh yeah. I was all for it.
That is terrible though.
What?
She got like 4 things up there and 3 of them are measuring spoons.
What got more likes? Jessica Hadwin's post, who has 22,000 followers, or Adam Hadwin's post, who has 46,000 followers?
I'm going to go with Jessica.
Jessica did. She had 708 likes on her reply versus the actual post of 476. So not only did he get laid out on the course, on social media, but also in the like game by his own following count.
How old is he?
Adam Hadwin?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll look it up, though.
Adam and Jessica Hadwin. Jessica.
35.
Oh, that's not too bad. That's a little older than I thought.
How about that putt by Nick Taylor, though, yesterday?
I know.
72 feet.
It's a long ways.
Yeah. How about Tommy Fleetwood, though, getting bailed out by a rule?
Is he still golfing?
He is.
Remember when Fleetwood was going to be the man?
Mm-hmm. Wasn't Rory supposed to be the man at one point?
So I'm telling you,
What about Ricky Fowler?
Somebody's head's got to roll with that PGA. These guys are just talking now, and you know Monahan. So their legal fees were $100 million. They only had $50 million in the reserves.
Mm-hmm.
I say only.
Yeah, and he's like, well, we're going up against a public government that just has unlimited funds. It's not fair.
So I wonder, like, when I'm telling you, there's nothing stopping from other power brokers from like just picking guys off. I'm telling you, like Amazon and Apple and folks like that. Hey, you floundering leagues, we'd like to just come in and start paying players, and we call that business acquisition. You watch. I'm telling you, that's what got Kobe in trouble with.
Is that all you're gonna stop there?
We start talking about basketball in China overseas.
A little bit of conspiracy theories. They're brewing
and lawsuits with Big Pharma. They're like, oh yeah, okay,
no big deal.
How many acres on the farm?
Here's a new pilot.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I'm all in on the Kobe conspiracy. I've been on this for like 3 years. Don't get me started.
Not only are you on that conspiracy, but you're just a conspiracy guy.
I mean, I'll listen. I'm not ridiculous. Just because
is the world flat?
No, not Kyrie Irving. But I do. I mean, Tupac is hanging out, and I think
on his island in the Caymans.
No, he moved.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, it's just north of the Auckland Islands.
Did you go visit him? Do you need a passport?
No, he sent me his pin drop.
Oh, no. You guys are pen pals?
Yeah. And I was like, golly, I think that's that place, the Black Pearl, somewhere down there.
Oh, now it's dun 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 dun
yeah,
dun
he
dun dun.
doesn't get
Johnny Depp's just
he doesn't
running.
He doesn't get great
pirate
cell
ship.
service, but he likes to fish because he catches what he eats. He said the water's crystal clear. So sometimes, since he doesn't have mirrors there, because it's kind of, it's just trying to be meager with his means and stuff, not draw attention to himself. But he checks his reflection after the facial reconstructive surgery that he had, and he said he can see his face crystal clear off the water.
This sounds like a song that he wrote. Everything that you just said seems like it could have been a rap.
I'm telling you, that's why he dubbed himself Machiavelli.
Will it be a rap this coming weekend? The Omaha Beef taking down, is it Salina? Salina?
Yeah, go Kansas. No, go Tommy Armstrong. And company. Yeah, TA.
Is it TAJ?
Just racking up wins.
Well, that's what happens. Arby's may have the meats, but Tommy Armstrong has the beef.
we got. I almost ate there this weekend.
Arby's?
Yeah, but I refuse to eat at a place out of town that I can eat in town.
Okay. I'm for that. I'm with that point.
Yeah, I just can't do it.
There's a lot of people like that. It's like, okay, you come to visit a town. Why would I eat McAllister's?
The sliders are good
McAllister's
right
over
now.
in St. Louis.
Pardon?
The sliders are good right now.
I ate at a place called Patelli's, I think. Gyros, beef dogs, and burgers.
Did you get a gyro?
No, I got what's called the gym shoe. And it was like a deep fried thing that had pastrami, corned beef, gyro meat, and cheese. It came with like vegetables and stuff in it, but I didn't get that. It weighed a pound.
I'm hungry.
It is unbelievable.
I'm really hungry now.
Seriously, like pull them up on it was.
I don't know if I want to. That's all I'm going to think about.
So they had one that was 2,200 calories. Yeah, 2,200 calories.
I mean, that dude could eat me. Yeah, probably could.
But the eating, I mean, it wasn't that type of party. It was very meager.
You know what my brother texted me?
What's that?
The other day, he goes, "Hey, I'm in on Thursday night for the College World Series. Are you playing trivia on Friday?" I'm like, "I don't know. We try." He's like, "Let me run it back against Stevie."
Well, sometimes we just don't get to it. Like,
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, "Yeah, we try. If we get to it, great. If we don't, we don't."
Run it back like Kansas City did. Oh wait, they didn't run it back.
That's our theme. What's that?
Run it back.
Yeah.
Run that back, Turbo.
Stop.
Hey, speaking of Kansas City, we are talking to the longtime Blue Valley Northwest High School boys basketball coach and the head coach of Christian Brown next. It's Ed Fritz. Stick around. More coffee and cream after the break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. DB, Andrew Rogers. Hey guys, if you're looking for something to do, check out the Omaha Storm Chasers as they begin their homestand against Columbus on June 13th. June 13th is free on the green. First 100 fans to show their FNBO card on the first Tuesday game each month can get up to 4 free berm tickets. That's presented by FNBO. As we continue to talk about Omaha and this area, there is a connection that we'll get to with Coach Ed Fritz here in a moment. But first, let's welcome him in now, the longtime Blue Valley Northwest High School boys basketball coach and coach of Christian Brown. Ed Fritz, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Good, Coach. How are you?
I'm great. Having a good day so far.
Hey, and it's a good day indeed for you to get to watch Game 5 of the NBA Finals and your former high school athlete in Christian Brown. Just take a moment and reflect on your time with him. How cool is it to see someone of his status excel like he's doing right now?
Hey, it's been a great ride. He came into Blue Valley Northwest as a 5'8" freshman. And he left about 6'6", and to be able to watch him develop and grow, and I guess to see the type of competitor he is, it's been very rewarding.
Coach, it's interesting. I mean, on a personal level, I got 2 boys. We play on that AA. We're in the shoe circuit. We're in Kansas City all the time. Matter of fact, our high school is coming this weekend to get some games in the off season. How important was it, that it's such a good product? I mean, there's a ton of good teams, a lot of good schools. The area is highly competitive too. Did you see it coming at all?
Yes, we've got a lot of good coaches and youth coaches in Kansas City. They've done a great job of developing talent, and there's just a lot of kids that want to work, and you watch the playoffs. There's always seems to be a Kansas City connection with somebody. So really proud of what Kansas City has been able to do basketball-wise.
Coach, speaking of development and those guys going to play at the next level, you have two that you coached coming to town, going to play at UNO. You have Grant Stubblefield and you have Christian's younger brother in Landon. What should Omaha know about these two guys, and what is the Summit League getting in them?
Hey, so just to tell you, I was Grant's coach his freshman and sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm now at North Kansas City High School.
Right. Yep.
Last couple of years, and I'm really close with both Landon and Grant. Grant is a unbelievable person and a really, really good playmaker. Grant's probably as good as any kid I've ever seen, creating angles and being able to get to the basket and finish. He's worked really hard to get his outside shot. I talked to him I think it was last Thursday. He's up there working now, and he loves it, and loves the kids, loves the coaches. So he's going to be a really good player. Landon is really improving every day. He works hard on his game. Landon is very athletic, just like his two brothers are, and both of them are going to have great careers.
Coach, how do you balance, right? You're in the development business. That's what really good high school coaches do. But you understand the game's evolution, how it's evolved, space, pace, lots of things. Have you had to, maybe compromise is too strong of a word, have you had to change the way that you've kind of done the development game to keep up with the way that the game is evolving and how it's played?
Yeah, I think any good coach does that. I kind of think that I've done an okay job of kind of looking at my personnel and playing the way that suits their abilities the best. I also think when kids are young and in youth programs, I encourage everybody to handle the ball, everybody to play inside and outside, and because you just never know, where a kid's ultimate ability or talent will lead them. So yeah, you have to change, and all the good coaches do change.
Speaking of Christian, once again, how do you use him as an example for the guys that you coach now? And saying like, hey, if you do these things, you can get to the level where he's at?
Well, when Christian came in as a freshman, he played a few games with the freshmen. He played the majority of the season on the JV team. His sophomore year, he was our ninth man, and we had a lot of good players in front of him that ended up going to play Division I basketball. But the thing about him was, he was always a leader. He was a leader from the bench, and he never stopped working. He never once complained about playing time. He knew he was in this for the long haul to get better and to improve. And sophomore year, we went to a tournament in Chicago at Loyola Chicago, and he was able to get his first offer. And then it kind of just grew from there. And he was able to win 3 state championships at Northwest, which was great for our school and for the school. And so he's a kid that just gets better and better. And the thing that I know, he's going to play in the NBA a long time, and in the next season or two, he'll become a starter.
Coach Fritz, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much. Thanks for reminiscing on the memories at your former school, and good luck to you and the rest of your time coaching at your new stop.
Hey, thank you very much.
That's
Thanks,
Coach Ed Fritz, just talking a little bit of Christian Brown and those coming to Omaha. Really unique. Something that I thought was interesting just there on the back end is the characteristics of like getting to the next level and just getting that first offer. DB, question for you. I know you hate my questions. Question for you.
Yeah.
How hard is it for an athlete to get their first offer? And then how much harder is it to stay progressive in their growth, whether it's like improvement in like their size, improvement in their game, just improvement overall? How do you kind of get better so you get more offers than just the one and you're not like stagnant?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of times it depends on the body type. For us, like at the football level, we got a couple guys that I've said all along, if they could just get one, I think it would really snowball, right? A guy like Anthony Rizak, with his South Dakota offer. The other thing is, a lot of times players want more. Jaden Jackson is a good basketball example, right? Got one early offer, and I think he just picked up another one
Eastern
from
Illinois.
Mm-hmm. And so for him, I'll just use him as an example because I know him so well, right? So he knows what some of the criticisms are, and most of them he can't do anything about.
It's his size.
It's his size, right? Like, if he was just another inch, if he was just. So what he tries to do is he accentuates what he does do well, right? If he's going to be that size, he wants one elite level skill. Right now, that's shooting. How does he continue to grow his game? He starts to put it on the deck a little bit more. He gets downhill. He's become a much better defender. So basketball, I think, is a little bit different than football, because even though I laugh sometimes about football being predicated on upside and it should be more about tangible results, because football is just one of those sports where you have to put in so much time outside of playing that your development better be happening real time while you are playing. Basketball is a little different because you'll get the Christian Brown stories where a kid will grow this weird amount, or all of a sudden, Anthony Davis, who was once a point guard, then all of a sudden he's too tall to play. Right?
He's too tall to play point.
Justin Patton, who was a point guard, and all of a sudden it's like, well, he was a point guard, and now he's a swing. So I think for those guys and gals that are trying to evolve and get more offers, a lot of it depends on your body type, how much is left in the tank, and what's my projection. If Anthony wants to be a quarterback, it's continuing to work on those skills, right? Arm slot, accuracy, leg strength. If it's
the little things.
If it's Christian Jones and people already think I have good size, okay, so what are the little things that I need to work on, right? Or fitting in the run game, or playing downhill, or whatever those things are. So, but I do think with the right first offer, typically significantly more offers do come. And there are a lot of guys we say, man, listen, if you could just get one, right, that'll turn into multiple. But the first one sometimes is pretty tough.
Along those same lines, something I heard a lot when I was getting recruited for baseball was you're too small physically, because I just didn't have the mass that was to be desired.
Very thin bone guy.
So what I did was I just focused on what I was good at, and I perfected what I was good at. Now that did hinder me whenever I finally got to the stage that I wanted to get to. Like there were coaches that reached out that said, hey, I only want you to pinch run. Like, only want me to pinch run? Like, I'm going to show up every day just to pinch run. But I got good at it because I knew that was a strength of mine, stealing bases in high school, doing the little things right in the outfield fundamentally, getting better at those things, so that even though I didn't throw the hardest, I think I maxed out at 74 on the gun. Wasn't very hard, but if you're accurate, you don't have to throw it super hard. As long as you get it to where it needs to go. So that's another thing too, along the same lines.
Gauging frames it's an art.
And if you
it seems like it's come up like a handful of times in the last 2 or 3 weeks, like body types and measurables. It's
sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
Other times you have to work a lot harder to get to where you want to go.
Very much so.
How tall is Caleb?
He just measured in at 5'11" and 3/4.
Do you know what the average DB is size-wise?
I do not.
I don't either. I was just curious.
He weighs 190. 180. 190.
It's got to be around that.
189.
Right? Like 6'1"?
I don't know. That seems long. 6'1"? Maybe not. Oops.
Yeah, you got to go up. You got to go up in hoops. Thanks for joining us today. Still a lot to get to throughout the rest of the week. We'll be back tomorrow.